Okay, this is a short one. Yeah, I really mean it this time. Yeah, I know I always say it. This time I really mean it because I don't have a lot to say. I was just watching Fox, and which I consider everything they say on Fox to be the Republican Party speaking. And they had a couple of people on there that wanted to criticize the Democrats and criticize Biden, and it's always the same damn thing. So they come out and say, "Well, we had this inflation, and this inflation is caused because of the COVID spending." Well, they're right. That is a big part of it. But they always, it's like, did these people never study economics? And I know economics. I always think people think, well, I think I know everything. Well, I do know a lot about a lot of stuff. One, because I'm old, and I want to talk about generations. Now, if I do that now, you'll say you lied. You said you were going to make it short, and then you didn't. You went off on one of your tangents talking about generations. So I won't, but I'm going to do it the next time. But let me just say this. They're talking now about how I'm doing it. Well, I'm going to do it because I'm going to be fast. I'll talk real fast. The senior citizens are now suddenly supporting Biden. The senior citizens, that's the bloc that always supported the Republicans. No, it isn't. And they say things. When I say they, I mean these talking heads. I don't care, Democratic or what. They all say something. Once one person says it, then they all repeat it. So senior citizens vote Republican. Well, when I was a kid, a long time ago, was right after Roosevelt died. I was born before Roosevelt died. But I grew up, my early child and guess what? Senior citizens were all Democrats because they remembered Social Security. Right? They actually had some security which they never had before because of Roosevelt and the Democrats. So they were Democrats. Now what happens is you have like half generations. The senior citizens that are now on their way out, I'm sad to say, because it means I'm not far behind. I call them the Eisenhower generation. And they were the half generation between Roosevelt and Kennedy. I call them the half generation. And their parents voted for Dwight David Eisenhower. And then they voted for Nixon. And so it's not full generational switches, it's half generational switches. And so what happened now is that that generation, the people, the half generation ahead of me, I remember when Kennedy came to campaign at the college campuses, which were hotbeds of republicanism, if you can believe it, because Republicans sent their kids to college, and they would boo the Kennedy people and just treated them horribly. Fast forward a few years, and Jack Kennedy was like the darling of the campuses, and then he was killed, and then we had the whole thing against Johnson and against Nixon about the war. But it's that half generation. So the half generation who was ahead of us, who were the Republicans in college when we were in high school, and whose parents were voted for Eisenhower, and our parents voted for Roosevelt. They're gone now. Not entirely, but they're on their way out. I knew a lot of them, and it makes me sad. But they're on their way out. They're being replaced by us, by the baby boomers. I'm actually older than the baby boomers. Those rotten kids, sniveling little brats, those baby boomers. But I was born during the war. I had the guts to come down here and face combat, single-handed. That's right. I only had one hand. Yeah, I got a transplant later. Now I have two. So, my generation, we were the ones who were against the war. We were the ones who were for civil rights. And now we're the senior citizens. Or as they say in Mexico, the senora senior citizens, the senora citizens. I botched that joke, didn't I? Well, it wouldn't be the first one. Yes, most people would just hang up the phone or whatever when I tell one of my really bad jokes, which I do. You know that. So, but enough about me. Let's talk about these senior citizens. So today's senior citizens were yesterday's anti-war kids, people who supported Kennedy, people who supported the civil rights movement, and we're the senior citizens. So of course, senior citizens are going to be Democrats. It's just like, it's like, I can't believe that. It seems so strange. Why? I thought seniors, like there's one group of people called senior citizens, and they're always the same people, and they've always been here, and they always will be here. It's the same 5 people. So they're not. Generations change. and that's what's going on right now. But then the half generation behind us, you find a fair amount of these young people that Biden seems to be losing have families and family members who have consistently voted Republican, and they pass the Republican views and philosophies down through the half generations to a lot of these younger people today. So I mean, there's so much of politics and political views have to do with region, have to do with generations, have to do with ages, have to do with economic status, have to do with slavery, even today. You know, these same factors continue to motivate people, and probably will for the rest of my lifetime, which is another 6 months. So, I'm kidding. Don't get all weepy on me, man. It's sad. I can see the tears welling up. I'll be around for a long time. Look at how young I look. Okay, it's surgery, but even so, you know, long-lived surgery, or LLS. It's because I've run out of things to say. That's all. So I'm going to do a little routine here. Okay, so Republicans not knowing economics. These people were right when they were complaining of these Republicans were doing analysis, and they were saying, well, this inflation came around because the government pushed so much money into the economy because of COVID. And you know, Trump started it, Biden continued it, and so this is why we've had all this demand. And this is where I'm going to get you. They have all this demand. That's true. We had excessive demand from the government putting money in people's hands, because the concern was, and it was legit, that if you didn't have demand and you didn't support things like restaurants, that we would go into a recession and maybe even a depression. So to counter that and head it off at the pass, as we say, that squeaking is not a mouse. That's my dog squeaking on a squeaky toy. I know. Well, he won't get a job, so you talk to him. So they're out there pumping money into the economy. That causes demand. But doesn't necessarily have anything to do with supply. If you studied economics, and I have, I studied 3 years at Michigan. I took the 2 advanced courses because I had background in economics and in calculus, which is the language of not just of science but also of economics. So I do understand these things. Not that they're that complicated. Well, so this woman was talking with great authority, says, yes, this is why we've had increases in gas prices and food prices and yada yada. Well, the economists don't even consider gas and food prices. Don't take them into consideration. The Fed doesn't when it's determining interest rates, because those are not really inflationary, because those things change all over the place. They're not core inflation. Core inflation is money that you have to borrow. I'm sorry, I apologize for this. He doesn't know better. What are you doing? I'm trying to talk to the folks. Yeah, no, not your folks. Yeah, I'll get rid of him for a couple of seconds. Can you imagine this? What an idiot chases a plastic ball. And then you wonder, why is he a Republican? Why is he a MAGA? Why does he support Trump? I don't know. Why does he chase a plastic ball all over the place? So, but enough about him. Let's continue talking about economics. So what irritated me was I said to myself, and now I'm saying to you, this great authority was on Fox News. It was talking about the shortages driven by prices. Well, that's classic inflation. Yes, you have people getting money, like, for example, military spending is inflationary because you're making jeeps and planes and bombs and stuff, and there's nobody to buy them. So you have people making stuff and getting money for making stuff. They now have money to go out and buy stuff, but there's nothing for them to buy. So the stuff that's there is in shorter supply, and it causes prices to go up. The definition being an excess of demand and a deficiency of supply. Well, when's the last time you saw long lines at the gas station because they didn't have enough gasoline? I'll tell you when. It's when Jimmy Carter was president. When's the last time you went to the store and there was no bread on the shelves? Okay, I did run into that last week, but that's a whole different issue. There's plenty of food. There's food. There's gasoline. There's airplane flights with tickets. All of these things that people are complaining about. Wow, I went out of this. They're not as a result of shortages. It's like bidding in an auction. There's lots of people have money, and the more money they have to spend, people who sell these things will raise prices until they can't raise them anymore. It has nothing to do with supply. It just has to do with I'll get as much as I can get for these eggs or this gasoline or whatever it is. Now, it is true that their prices tend to go up because you've got supply chains. And in the supply chains, when their prices go up, when they demand more money because prices are going up, that's called push-pull inflation. So all of these tie in. It's a complicated mess, but it isn't just, there's people getting a bunch of money from the government and then there's nothing to spend on. But the thing that really got me was this other fellow who was on the program, another know-it-all. He says, well, and the big problem is the national debt keeps going up because we don't have enough money to pay for these things. And that problem is going to continue until it ruins this country unless the Democrats stop spending money all the time. And I'm saying to myself as I'm reaching out to wring his neck through my television, it wouldn't be a problem if you Republicans would stop cutting taxes all the time so there'd be enough revenue to pay for these things when we need them. But he didn't listen to me, kept right on talking. So the big bumps we've had inflation have been with, and I've been over this before, but I just, when you just look at the economic policies and their results from starting really with Calvin Coolidge. And then, actually Warren G. Harding, then Calvin Coolidge, then Herbert Hoover, right in the middle of a depression, cuts taxes. Well, what you can do is to stimulate the economy sometimes in those situations is increase spending, and you may have to borrow to do it. But you don't cut taxes because there you're cutting your own life's blood, and that's what they did. And then Reagan cut taxes, and stopped regulating, and as a result, George Bush Jr.'s first administration was a disaster with all these banks going under, And then his son came in and he cut taxes, and then he left an economy in shambles, which Barack Obama then was able to some extent, by not renewing some of the Bush tax cuts. And then Trump comes in and he starts doing the same thing. And, and as a result, when we needed money to spend on COVID, we had to spend that money. We didn't have much choice. There was no revenue to pay for it because he had slashed taxes. So what they have to do, they have to go and borrow more money. And the big cost of that borrowing money is the interest that has to be paid, because the money that's borrowed, you don't have to pay that off right away. You can sell more bonds and use that money to pay off the first set of bonds that are coming due, and you can just keep that going. But the interest has to be paid here and now, right here in real time. And it's that interest payment which is now greater than the entire military budget, which threatens the very economic existence of this country, and we do need to start cutting some spending. But the main thing is we got to stop cutting taxes on people who don't need it, because that's costing the government literally trillions of dollars. Go look it up on Google. All those facts and figures are there, and it's enough to make you turn, whatever color you are, to another color that you're not. Yeah, I avoided racism. So we will talk some other time about racism in this country and what it means, and how I distinguish between hardcore racism and soft racism. So you can think about those terms and figure it out yourselves. I'm not going to tell you everything. Well, I will tell you everything because I can't help myself. But that'll be another time. So you have a good... Oh, you know what? This is Saturday. So enjoy yourselves. Not too much. You don't want to end up, waking up tomorrow like I did. And I didn't really. I'm just making that up. Yeah. Okay. All right. What? No, I'm not doing that, and don't you do it either. Oh, God. I got to get a better class of viewers. Bye.